I told him we should donate to feminist movements. Instead, he came back with divorce papers. This might sound outrageous, but my life turned upside down just because I asked my husband to donate to feminist movements. In return, he has decided to drag me to court and divorce me. I have been crying all day because my husband did the unthinkable. Hello, my name is Eloise, and I'm a 25-year-old feminist. I work as a fashion designer in a company I will not be referencing for privacy reasons. The name of my husband is Philip. Philly is 38 years old, and we have been married for about 2 years now. Philip has his own travel agency, and we have been living well. Philip and I met at a time when he was coming to our company. He was trying to surprise his then-girlfriend with a dress for her birthday, and we were to make a dress for her. From the moment I started showing him samples and trying to help him find a dress for his girlfriend, I just knew that I had an interest in him. I know that was stupid of me, but I just couldn't withstand it, even though I knew he had a girlfriend. While trying to get the dress to his girlfriend's taste, I made up several excuses to spend more time with him. I just knew that if the dress was done fast, I would literally not get another chance to speak to him, and I didn't want that. My colleagues at work actually noticed everything too, and some even tried to talk to me about it. But I wasn't ready to listen to anyone. I wanted Philip at all costs, and I didn't care if his relationship got ruined in the process. What was more important to me was dating him, and so I ignored the consequences that might follow. Even though I tried my best to delay the process of making the dress as much as I couldn't keep the act up forever. When the dress was finally made, I knew I had to act fast, or else I was going to lose my chance with Philip. I'm someone who loves getting what she wants, so when I made the choice of wanting Philip, I didn't joke about it. I spoke to my closest friend about my predicament, and she told me the best thing to do was to make the girlfriend break up with him, since Philip seemed like a hard nut to crack. I was the one meant to deliver the dress to his girlfriend, so I used that as an opportunity. I told her Philip was flirting with me throughout the process of making the dress and that we had a thing going on. I knew that would work because Philip had been spending more time at our store while we delayed the dress, so it was reasonable that his girlfriend had been suspecting something was up. His girlfriend refused to believe me at first and told me to leave, but I showed her a picture that left her with doubts. Days later, Philip came back to the store to ask if I had said anything to his girlfriend. I denied his accusation and said his girlfriend was rude to me and even tried to fight me. From his reaction, I could tell his girlfriend had broken up with him, so I was happy. But he left the store and didn't even try to get my contact information. I gave him a total of 6 months without disturbing him before I finally contacted him. After almost a year of trying to get his attention, we finally started dating. I'm a feminist, and I don't crave male validation, but then the problem I had with Philip was the fact that he had to be told what to do before he could do anything. I had to tell him that we have to go out as a couple, that we need to give each other gifts, that we need to be intentional about everything. But as time went on, he began to behave the way that he should, and I was happy we were making progress. I made sure that I didn't mess up the relationship because I knew how hard I worked for it. After we dated for nearly 2 years, we got to do a family introduction, and I met his family. I was excited because it felt like that was a step in the right direction. A few weeks after that, I got a hint from Philip that he wanted to propose to me. I made sure we didn't argue, or fight during that time because I needed the ring and wanted to marry him. Eventually, he proposed, and I accepted it. We were engaged for a while, and after 2 months, we began to talk about planning our wedding. It was all overwhelming for me, but I knew that I had to put things together in order for everything to work out. There were days that I was so exhausted that I had to just calm down and not overwork myself. I had to start asking people for help. Our families came to our rescue, and it helped a lot. I was very glad Philip was contributing a great deal to the wedding, and he made sure that I didn't spend my own money on it. The wedding came, and like that, it was over. We were able to come to an agreement on what to do and how we were going to be living. We moved into our home, and officially, our lives started. I know everything sounds like it was such a smooth ride, right? Well, things started to go downhill from here. Living with Philip wasn't easy. It felt as if I didn't know him or hadn't dated him before. I had to adjust to many things: his lifestyle, his way of doing things. I often felt like he didn't value me as much as he should. Of course, I had noticed some traits I didn't like before marriage, like his lack of affection or failure to treat me like a princess. But I thought that marriage would change his ways, that locking him in would make a difference. On the bright side, Philip made sure to provide for me, and at times, it felt like he was the only one doing so. I often told him I wanted to assist him financially, but he refused, insisting it was his responsibility as a man. Honestly, I liked that. Who wouldn't enjoy the freedom of not paying a dime? I loved the fact that I could spend my own money however I liked, so I went along with his decision. But as time went on, something began to bother me: his tendency to make important decisions without involving me. Whether it was buying new furniture, a car, or even handling personal finances, he never consulted me. I confided in my friend about this, and she pointed out how it went against feminism. I agreed. I am a feminist, and I believe in equal rights, even in marriage. I didn't see anything wrong with wanting a say in our decisions. After the wedding, I began to see another side of Philip: his temperament. He would easily get angry over small things, like me making a purchase from his card without informing him, or buying things for the house without consulting him. I understood it was his money, but I didn't think I was wrong. As his wife, I deserved equal rights in decision-making. He didn't need to raise his voice or act superior over such things. These issues led to many arguments. Over time, I started to notice that Philip despised my views on feminism. He often told me I was misinterpreting it, that I was pushing too hard. But I didn't think that was the case. I believed I was fighting for something important. In the middle of trying to adjust to married life and balancing my job with our new family, more issues arose. I grew tired of cooking almost every day. Even though Philip came home late from work, I wanted him to help in the kitchen. After a long day, I was exhausted, and even though I finished work before him, it was difficult to keep up with household chores. I expected Philip to be reasonable, but he refused to help. It felt like my complaints fell on deaf ears, like his job mattered more than mine. The fact that he provided financially shouldn't have meant my work was any less significant. I, too, worked long hours and deserved time to rest. When I suggested hiring house help, he rejected the idea, saying we didn't need one. At work, I was promoted, and my workload increased significantly. I expected Philip to be happy for me, to recognize my hard work. I even thought my promotion might encourage him to return home earlier and help more, but nothing changed. Despite my promotion, my work hours remained the same, and my hatred for cooking and cleaning only grew stronger. I despise household chores altogether. Philip, however, seemed interested only in his own job. He expected food to be ready before he got home, justifying it by saying he worked late. At that point in my life and marriage, I was angry with everything. Feeling unheard, I turned to my friend once again. I felt embarrassed that I needed to seek her advice so often, as if my marriage had too many problems. But I needed someone to listen, someone to validate my feelings. It was clear to me that Philip didn't understand my perspective at all. Yes, he paid for everything, from my personal bills to household expenses. And yes, he worked late. I understood that. But I also worked. I worked for myself, and as a woman, I shouldn't have been subjected to kitchen duties all the time. Cooking was hard, and it was even harder for a working woman. As I had hoped, my friend saw things from my perspective. She stood firmly by my side, supporting all my views. She even encouraged me to stand my ground and not give in, reminding me that I was fighting for something important. Deep down, I didn't want my marriage to end. I just wanted Philip to understand my views as a feminist and recognize how shameful it was to settle for anything less than equality. I had fought hard to get him to marry me in the first place. I knew he wasn't a feminist, but I thought I could change him. Before marriage, I wasn't as deeply invested in feminism as I became afterward. But as I grew into it, I expected him to grow with me. I believed change was possible. I just didn't know if Philip would ever be willing to change with me. I hated the kitchen work and the idea that I had to cook before he got back from work. Who made the rules, and who said it had to be done that way? I knew at least one person would understand where I was coming from, because I was 100% sure that my views were accurate, and I did nothing wrong. Even my friends supported me and advised me on the next step to take. I'm not usually one to follow people blindly and do exactly what they suggest, but when my friend recommended that I go on a vacation and take a break from the house so Philip could see how serious I was, I accepted it immediately. I told him I needed time to myself and wanted to clear my head. Philip told me he had nothing against that and even offered to take leave from work so we could go together, but I refused. I told him I was fine on my own, and thankfully he didn't press me further. On my vacation, I met a group of women with whom I resonated. They were also feminists, and it was my friend who connected me with them. They made me feel understood, and it was the perfect validation. I loved the fact that other women felt the same way I did. I was not easily convinced by others, but this group of women was very dedicated to feminism and equal rights. They were out to change the world, and I wanted to be part of it. I got their contact information so I could keep in touch. Their foundation was not far from my house back home, so I always made time to go there after work. As a result, I barely had time to take care of the house before Philip got back. I didn't cook or clean, and I didn't even have time to take our clothes to the dry cleaner like I usually did. I admit that at some point our house looked really messy because I just had no time to take care of it. I was trying my best to balance work and the foundation, but it was too overwhelming. I knew Philip was noticing the change, but he gave me the benefit of the doubt and didn't ask me any questions at first. However, I knew it was only a matter of time before he started asking questions and complaining. So I decided to speak to someone at the foundation. She told me I was doing nothing wrong, and that I was only doing my best as a wife and working woman. Another woman tried to tell me I was taking things too far, but I ignored her because I felt like she was being unreasonable. One day, Philip finally decided to speak to me about my new behavior and how I was barely at home and hardly doing anything. That day, we had a very long argument, and I could see that Philip was getting fed up with a lot of things. What I didn't understand was why he was getting fed up in the first place. I felt like I was trying my best as a wife, even though he claimed not to see it. The fact that I was not cheating was a big contribution, right? He came up with the financial argument, just like all men do. He asked me to list what I brought to the table, and I said that the fact that I was even at the table was enough reason for him to be thankful. On the other hand, he said he was providing for me, caring for me, and planning a future with me while still being busy at work. He also pointed out that he sometimes cooked before I got back from the foundation, even though he was tired. Philip got so angry that he gave me an ultimatum. He said that if I was ready to provide for the house, then he was more than happy to stay home and take care of it. I refused because what I asked for was equal rights, not to be his source of income. I didn't like how serious he was getting, so I decided to let Philip do his thing and went on with my life. Things were moving well. My work at the office was all right, and I was able to find a balance. I began to invest more in myself and was able to make myself happy without thinking of any other person. I concentrated on myself. However, deep down, I knew that the reason I took a break was because I didn't want Philip to divorce me. I could tell that he was getting fed up and that his tolerance for my actions was low. I didn't want to lose the marriage I had spent years praying for, so I had to tone things down a little. I just wanted to live the princess lifestyle without doing much housework and stress. I needed Philip to see things from my point of view. I thought that by toning things down and pretending to finally agree with him for some time, I could get him to forget about the things I had done and extinguish any thought of divorce from his mind. But I was absolutely wrong. One Saturday morning, after we had breakfast, which he ordered, by the way, he asked to speak to me, and I agreed. I can vividly remember that the first thing he said was, "I feel like we should start talking about kids now." I just need to say that those words absolutely traumatized me. Kids? I didn't want kids. I wasn't ready for kids. No part of me had ever thought about having children until he said it. I loved my body, and I did not want kids, at least not yet. So you need to imagine the level of shock I felt when he brought that topic up. To be honest, he had told me he wanted kids before we got married, and I didn't say no. I just said anything at that point because I wanted to marry him at all costs. But after 5 years of being together, I just realized that having children was not in my plans. I had insecurities and several reasons, so I told him no. Philip felt like I gaslighted him because he had asked me before proposing, and I didn't refuse. He told me he was not going to let me use him like that, and that he was not going to put down his life goals and live an unsatisfied life. Just because I woke up one morning and decided to interpret feminism the way I liked. After he told me that, he left the house. I was honestly hurt by the way things had turned out, so I decided to lay low for some time and not do or say anything to rattle him up. But something crazy happened at the foundation one day that led me to break my promise. Other members of the foundation had a few of their husbands donating to the cause. Some of them donated themselves, because their husbands were not in support of what the foundation stood for and what their movement was all about. The other women started to ask me to donate to the feminist movement too, since I had been a member for long enough. I didn't want to be left out, so I decided to donate, but I didn't want to use my own money. I wanted Philip to donate himself. So I decided to make a plan. I wanted Philip and I to go see a therapist, iron our issues out, and then I'd ask him to donate right after. It was obvious that we were headed for divorce and that nothing was working in our marriage. I liked the idea because, after much discussion with like-minded women at the foundation, they told me that it was best for us to see a therapist. To my dismay, the therapist was a very biased person. She made it seem like I was the one at fault in all our sessions and claimed that if I was really looking for equality, then he had to stop funding everything and that we had to go 50-50. That made me angry because I thought seeing a therapist would vindicate me and not make me the bad guy. As a result of the therapist's judgment, Philip got more adamant and claimed that I was trying to end our marriage because I was being influenced by people. He also made it clear that my behavior would lead us to getting a divorce sooner or later. I couldn't believe what was going on, and it felt like my life was literally crumbling right before my eyes. I had to think fast and ask him to donate because my friend was pressuring me, and I was getting embarrassed about being the only member not to donate. I waited for months so that Philip and I would be on good terms before I finally asked him to donate to the feminist movement. The last thing I expected was for Philip to get angry and go off on me in such a way that he told me I was the worst decision he had ever made in his life. He also swore never to let a dime of his hard-earned money go to the same foundation that was influencing me to ruin our marriage. I thought it was just his usual tantrums, but 6 weeks later, he gave me divorce papers and sent me out of the house. As I write this now, we're basically heading for divorce. It all feels like a dream, and I cannot believe that all this happened to me. I thought I was doing the right thing, but now, the man I basically lied to marry wants to divorce me. I don't know what to do, and I urgently need help because I'm honestly going crazy right now. I do not want to lose this marriage because it will break me. Update. Hello. It's been over a year already, and I cannot believe it. I never planned to have a second update, or even take so long to eventually update. When I decided to update, life hit me so hard that I had to change my mind. I guess this is my own way of healing in a way. Oh, and I really need to address the comments, because you all have literally sliced my character. I prayed and hoped that I would be understood, but it seems like everyone is just calling me delusional and brainwashed. Some even went as far as saying I am a disgrace to feminism and what it stands for. I've been through a lot, and these weren't the reactions I was expecting. I just wanted equality and the right to make decisions whenever I liked, but it seems like I had been gaslighting myself. You might want to ask what has been going on in my life all this while. I got divorced eventually because Philip refused to take me back. I told him I'd change, but he told me he was done with me and wanted nothing to do with a selfish narcissist who hid under the camouflage of femininity. I cannot believe he said that because those words haunt me to this day. After the divorce, I lost my job at the company because the divorce had taken a toll on me. I went from not giving my best at work to missing work entirely. I was given an ultimatum, but I still couldn't get back on my feet and work effectively. so I was sacked. I have been looking for a job ever since, but I haven't found one. My life has been turned upside down due to one mistake of mine. Imagine being broke and divorced. I hate my life. I wish I had never met those people and became a feminist. I wish I was not influenced, because otherwise I would be living the life of my dreams.